nothing if not a country that's moving forward at an incredible pace. You know, so having said all of this about trauma and stuff, the great thing about Israel is the skyscrapers and the beaches and the restaurants and the buzzing nightlife and like all of those things. But examining what lies behind that, I think, is an important part of understanding where you are.
Yeah. And do you think, just one more question, sort of relatedly, do you still feel at home in England? And do you think one can feel at home can one belong completely in two places, or as belonging increases in one, does the sense of belonging in the other lessen?
Yeah, I feel I belong here. I certainly feel like when I'm in the Scarsdale and I'm propping up the bar, I'm pretty much in command of my environment. But definitely having children, and having children that are Israeli, and the way you look at your own identity through your child's identity. And would I say that my children are British in any way? Not really, right? So given that the future is going in one direction, I feel strongly. I mean, one of the nicest things about coming home to England is being able to speak in English. I mean, it's kind of fun. I mean, you can just I can sort of banter with taxi drivers and shout at people. So that's a really nice thing. So language is also an issue. Do you need some water?
Do you want me to get you some water?
That'd be great. I'll just continue rambling about my sense of identity in the stars. Yeah, so yeah, it definitely, I feel I am totally happy here. But as things are moving away, things will change. I'll become an old person, and I suppose my grandchildren will be there, and I don't know. But everything changes. I mean, as you Israelis move all around the world, they're very like global, international people. They don't. So who knows? So I'm happy in both places.
You know, sorry. What Kishon said about Israel is a place where you learn your mother tongue from your children.
Right. That's a really interesting. Not only that. Not only do you learn from your children how to speak, but because language is so important in conveying the actual thinking, the thought processes, and the culture of a place, your child's also teaching you where you are, which is a very strange experience. And I just hope that my kids don't think, oh God, you know, my British dad, he's such a weirdo, he doesn't really get it, what's he doing? I'm sure there'll be a bit of that. They haven't worked out yet that I'm not from there. When they do, they'll probably, whatever. Quite finished, Nicola?
Yes, I'm so sorry, I feared this might happen. Are there any more questions?
When you write your book, do you ever think of it should be a play, or a stage production, or a radio play? I mean, do you speak it out in your head?
So yeah, two things. In terms of dialogue and stuff, and I love reading out loud what I've written, but in terms of plays, I very much like drama as an art form, because I think you can pack a lot more in terms of theme and characterization to a far more compressed space. And I think I write in quite visual and dramatic ways. And I think of theatrical theme quite a lot when I'm putting together scenes. Having said that, writing drama is totally its own discipline, and I don't think that I have the capacity to cross over. So in the sense that I'm aware of radio plays and drama as feeding into the way I write, it's very much prose that I'm interested in.
I mean, speaking of different technologies, obviously the radio is a central part of the novel Radio Tel Aviv. And you chose this kind of wonderful but arguably dated technology to speak about this, of your character, but also this country that's building itself into the future.
Mm-hmm.
Could you say why you chose the radio, what it meant to you, and could you have conveyed the same sense of things if you'd been if Dr. Shine had had a passion for the internet, for example.
Right. Yeah, the radio as a communal space is a pretty interesting one, and it's certainly in the early days of radio and before Israel developed into such a modern, and there weren't even that many radio stations. The example of the actual original Radio Tel Aviv, which came off, it was just one radio station, and so everyone would be listening to one. And you wouldn't even have your own radio, right? You'd actually gather around a radio store and everyone would listen in. And of course, what was coming across most poignantly was news, where people would listen to news collectively from a single source. And the level of fragmentation that we all hear about in the press every day, that we all live pretty much atomized lives, that social media hasn't actually created a public space, it's created an atomized divorce space. I mean, I know for one, I only listen to the news I want to hear, and from the people I want to tell me it. In fact get quite enraged if I switch channels. So I actually think that the radio as a metaphor is about a communal energy, and I think he certainly feels towards the end of his life that the new generation is detached, and they're not communicating as a community in a way. Having said all of that, the radio is it's an incredible technology. It basically has survived against all of these other competing, more atomized forms. And I think, just from personal experience, having something like Radio 4 in the background is something that we can all recognize as a familial, warm, homely sound that everyone can enjoy, whereas, you know, flicking up and down on social media is a pretty isolated and depressing activity. So I think Dr. Shine is right, personally.
Are there anyone aware that we've gone over a little bit our time? Is there any final question?
If not, I'll just say very quickly. Yeah, go on.
No, go ahead.
So Blackwell's bookstore has copies of the book, and it's in paperback, but I have got a bootleg selection of hardbacks for those the more discerning reader amongst you. So feel free just to approach me, and they cost £10 each, and I will dedicate them. I hope I didn't get that in too early.
No, I mean, and to reiterate the introduction, I say not just as an old friend of Ed, but genuinely, I really highly recommend reading this book, which is both touching and conveys something that even the short passage, as wonderful as it was, the whole thing is really genuinely worth reading. So I think thank you everyone to coming, and especially to Ed for sitting here. And it's not hard always to talk about a love project in a public room, but thank you all for coming, and let's begin.
And after book buying, we can all go to the bar as well.